Welcome to Science for Sleep. Tonight, we're exploring a strange and familiar experience that nearly everyone has felt at least once, yet very few truly understand. That sudden moment when reality feels repeated. When a conversation seems remembered before it happens. When a place feels known even though logic says it shouldn't. This experience has a name. Déjà vu. A French phrase meaning already seen. But what causes it is far more complex than the name suggests. Tonight's journey is not about quick answers. It's about carefully unfolding what neuroscience, psychology, history, and even speculation suggest about why the brain sometimes feels like it's stepping outside of time. This is a long-form exploration designed to be listened to slowly. No rush, no sharp turns. Just a steady descent into one of the mind's most curious glitches. We'll begin at the surface with what déjà vu feels like. Then move deeper into how the brain constructs memory. Then deeper still into competing theories, neurological evidence, historical interpretations, and controversial ideas that blur the line between science and mystery. By the end, you'll understand why déjà vu is not a mistake of reality, but a revealing glimpse into how the brain predicts, records, and reconstructs experience. Let's begin at the moment itself. Déjà vu usually arrives without warning. You may be standing in a room, walking down a street, listening to someone speak. Suddenly, there's a feeling that this exact moment has happened before. Not vaguely, precisely. The lighting feels familiar. The timing feels rehearsed. The next second seems predictable, but it never lasts long. Within seconds, the feeling fades, leaving behind a quiet confusion and a question. How could this feel remembered when you know it cannot be? To understand that, we need to understand what memory actually is. Most people think of memory as a recording, as if the brain stores experiences the way a camera stores video. But neuroscience tells us this is not how memory works. Memory is not playback. It is reconstruction. Every time you remember something, your brain rebuilds it. It uses fragments, emotions, associations, patterns, and it fills in the rest. This means memory is not a fixed archive. It is a dynamic process, and that process is vulnerable to timing errors. The brain has multiple memory systems. One system handles familiarity, another handles context, another handles emotion. Normally, these systems activate in a specific order, but sometimes they don't. Déjà vu may occur when familiarity activates without recollection, when the brain says, "This feels known," before it checks whether it actually is. In laboratory settings, researchers have observed this effect. When people are shown scenes that closely resemble earlier experiences, but are not identical, the brain can misfire. It triggers a sense of recognition without a source. The result feels uncanny, because the brain is confident but wrong. This leads to one of the strongest scientific explanations of déjà vu, that it is a mismatch between memory signals. The brain flags familiarity first, then fails to locate the memory that explains it. The conflict creates the sensation. But this explanation only scratches the surface, because it doesn't explain why déjà vu feels so specific, why it feels like the future is momentarily known, why it feels like a repetition of time itself. To understand that, we need to look at how the brain processes time. The brain does not experience time as a smooth flow. It experiences it in chunks. Neuroscientists call these chunks temporal windows. Within each window, sensory information is grouped together. Sight, sound, emotion, meaning. They are bound into a single moment. If something disrupts this binding process, even slightly, the brain can process the same input twice. Once unconsciously, once consciously. When the conscious version arrives, the unconscious version feels like a memory, even though it happened milliseconds earlier. This creates a powerful illusion. The present feels like the past. This theory is supported by experiments involving delayed perception. When sensory signals are intentionally delayed in controlled settings, people report feelings strikingly similar to déjà vu. This suggests that déjà vu may not be about memory at all. It may be about timing. A tiny delay, a neural hiccup, so small that it goes unnoticed, except for the feeling it leaves behind. But neuroscience doesn't stop there, because déjà vu is also strongly linked to specific brain regions, particularly the temporal lobe. This part of the brain plays a key role in memory, recognition, and meaning. People with temporal lobe epilepsy often report intense and frequent déjà vu episodes before seizures. These episodes are sometimes more vivid than normal déjà vu, more immersive, more emotional, more convincing. This has led scientists to believe that déjà vu may occur when memory circuits briefly activate in isolation, without the rest of the brain agreeing. A kind of localized replay, not of an actual memory, but of the signal that something is remembered. This raises an unsettling possibility, that déjà vu is not a memory error, but a memory signal misapplied. The brain shouting known, when nothing is actually known. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes sense. The brain evolved to detect patterns quickly. Recognizing familiarity is safer than missing it. A false positive is less dangerous than a false negative. If something feels familiar, the brain pays attention, even if it's wrong. This bias toward recognition may be the price we pay for survival. But not all explanations are purely neurological. Throughout history, déjà vu has been interpreted very differently. In ancient cultures, it was seen as evidence of reincarnation, the feeling of remembering a past life. In some spiritual traditions, it was thought to be a glimpse into destiny, a reminder that life follows a pre-written path. In the 19th century, philosophers debated whether déjà vu proved that time was circular, that consciousness could loop, or that memory could travel backward. These ideas were speculative, but they reveal something important. Déjà vu has always challenged the idea that time flows in one direction, because it feels like a break in sequence, a crack in causality. This has led to more modern, controversial theories. Some suggest that déjà vu occurs when the brain predicts the immediate future correctly. The brain is constantly forecasting what will happen next. Most of the time, these predictions are unconscious. But if a prediction matches reality perfectly, the brain may misinterpret it as a memory. The moment feels remembered because it was anticipated. This theory reframes déjà vu as a success, not a failure. The brain predicted the world so accurately that it confused prediction with recollection. Others go further. Some speculate that déjà vu is evidence of parallel processing, that multiple versions of experience briefly overlap, or that consciousness accesses stored simulations of reality. These ideas are not supported by evidence, but they persist because déjà vu feels larger than a simple glitch, feels meaningful, and the human mind is drawn to meaning. There is also the simulation hypothesis, the idea that reality itself is a constructed system. In this framework, déjà vu is imagined as a loading error, a repeated state, a reused asset. Again, this is speculation, but it reflects a deeper truth. Déjà vu exposes how fragile our sense of reality is, how much we rely on timing, memory, and prediction to feel grounded. When those systems slip, even briefly, reality feels unstable, and that instability is uncomfortable, which is why the brain quickly corrects it. The feeling fades, normal perception resumes, and life goes on. Most people experience déjà vu a few times a year. It is more common in younger individuals, more frequent during periods of stress or fatigue, and less common as the brain ages. This suggests that déjà vu may be linked to peak cognitive flexibility, a brain that predicts aggressively, that learns quickly, that forms strong associations. As those systems stabilize with age, déjà vu becomes rarer. Which brings us to a final question. Is déjà vu a glitch, or is it a feature? It may be both. A side effect of a brain designed to anticipate the world. A reminder that perception is not passive, that reality is assembled in real time, moment by moment. Deja vu doesn't mean time is broken. It means the brain is fast. So fast that sometimes it gets ahead of itself. And for a brief moment, the present feels like memory. As we continue in the next section, we'll move even deeper into experiments that artificially induce deja vu, cases that challenge existing theories, and the lingering question of whether deja vu tells us something profound about consciousness itself. For now, let the idea settle that what feels like a mystery of reality may be a window into how the brain quietly builds the world you experience. As we go deeper, it becomes important to slow down and examine something subtle. Deja vu does not just feel like familiarity. It feels misplaced, out of sequence. And that distinction matters, because there is another experience that is often confused with deja vu, but is not the same thing. It's called déjà vu, meaning already lived. Unlike deja vu, which is brief and vague, déjà vu can feel overwhelming. People experiencing it may believe an entire situation has happened before, in full detail. They may feel they know exactly what will happen next. This condition is rare and often linked to neurological disorders, particularly severe temporal lobe dysfunction. Studying déjà vu has helped scientists understand déjà vu by contrast. Déjà vu is short, uncertain, and self-correcting. Déjà vu is persistent, confident, and disruptive. This tells us something important. Déjà vu happens when the brain detects an error and corrects it. Déjà vu happens when the correction system fails. The brain commits to the illusion, which suggests that déjà vu may actually be evidence of a healthy brain, a system that notices a mismatch and resolves it quickly. In this sense, déjà vu is not a malfunction. It is an internal alarm. A moment where the brain says something doesn't line up and then fixes it. This reframing explains why déjà vu often comes with a strange clarity, a heightened awareness. People report feeling unusually present during déjà vu, almost as if the world sharpens for a moment. This may be because prediction systems briefly disengage. The brain stops assuming and starts observing. Reality feels vivid because the brain is recalibrating. This ties into predictive processing theory, one of the dominant frameworks in modern neuroscience. According to this theory, the brain is not a passive receiver of information. It is a prediction machine. It constantly generates models of the world, then compares incoming sensory data to those models. Perception is the brain correcting its own guesses. When prediction and input align, perception feels smooth. When they conflict, the brain updates its model. Déjà vu may occur when prediction matches input too well, so well that the brain mistakes the prediction for a memory. The present feels pre-remembered because it was internally simulated. This idea is supported by studies showing that people prone to déjà vu often score higher on imagination and pattern recognition. Their brains generate richer simulations, more detailed internal worlds, which increases the chance of overlap between prediction and perception. Now let's look at how scientists have tried to trigger déjà vu deliberately. In laboratory settings, researchers have used virtual environments. Participants explore digital spaces. Later, they are shown new environments with similar layouts. Even though the details differ, the spatial structure is the same. Many participants report strong déjà vu. Their brains recognize the structure, not the specifics. This tells us that familiarity can be abstract. The brain does not store experiences as exact replicas. It stores patterns, relationships, layouts, emotional tones. So when a new situation matches an old pattern, the brain flags it as known, even if the conscious mind can't place it. This also explains why déjà vu often happens in mundane situations. A hallway, a conversation, a routine activity. These moments share common structures with past experiences. The brain recognizes the pattern, but cannot identify the source. The result is déjà vu. This pattern-based explanation also explains why déjà vu fades quickly. Once the brain determines there is no matching memory, the signal is withdrawn. The system resets. But this still leaves open a deeper question. Why does déjà vu feel meaningful? Why does it feel like more than a technical error? The answer may lie in how the brain assigns significance. The hippocampus, a key memory structure, also plays a role in detecting novelty. It helps determine what is important enough to remember. When déjà vu occurs, this system is activated unexpectedly. The brain flags the moment as significant, but without context. So the feeling of importance remains even after the familiarity fades. This lingering significance may be why people remember déjà vu episodes so vividly. They feel important, even if they're not. This is where conspiratorial interpretations enter. Because when something feels important but unexplained, the mind searches for meaning. Some people believe déjà vu is evidence of timeline resets. Others believe it's a memory leak from parallel universes. Some interpret it as proof of precognition, or messages from a deeper layer of reality. These ideas are not supported by evidence, but they persist because déjà vu bypasses rational processing. It arrives fully formed, without explanation, and then disappears. That is exactly the kind of experience that invites myth. Historically, cultures have always treated déjà vu as a sign. In ancient Greece, it was sometimes interpreted as divine recognition. In medieval Europe, it was linked to prophecy. In Eastern philosophies, it was tied to karmic memory. These interpretations differ, but they share a theme. Déjà vu feels like knowledge without learning, and that challenges our understanding of how knowledge is acquired. Even today, despite neuroscience, the experience resists complete reduction, because consciousness itself resists reduction. We can map neural activity, measure timing errors, identify brain regions, but the feeling itself remains subjective. It is not directly observable. This gap leaves room for speculation, and speculation fills silence. But science offers a quieter explanation. That déjà vu is a moment when the brain briefly shows its work. When prediction, memory, and perception overlap just enough for us to notice. Normally, these processes are invisible. They operate seamlessly. Déjà vu pulls back the curtain, just for a second, and that second feels strange, because it reveals that reality is not simply perceived. It is constructed, continuously. If you've ever felt unsettled by déjà vu, that's understandable. It shakes trust in memory, in time, in sequence. But it also offers reassurance. It shows that the brain is actively maintaining coherence, that it notices inconsistencies and resolves them, that consciousness is not fragile. It is resilient, self-correcting, adaptive. As we continue, we'll explore rare cases that challenge everything we've discussed so far. Cases where déjà vu lasts longer. Cases where it feels absolute. And what those cases reveal about the fine line between perception and belief. There are cases that force neuroscientists to confront the limits of every explanation so far. They are rare, uncomfortable, and deeply revealing. In these cases, déjà vu does not fade. It does not self-correct. It does not gently dissolve back into normal perception. Instead, it persists, sometimes for minutes, sometimes for hours, in extreme cases for years. These cases are not typical, but they matter, because they show what happens when the brain's reality-checking systems fail completely. One of the most studied examples involves patients with damage to the medial temporal lobe. These individuals report constant feelings that everything is familiar. Every conversation, every room, every experience. They insist they have lived it all before. Not metaphorically, literally. What's striking is not just the persistence of the feeling, but the certainty. There is no doubt, no hesitation, no awareness that something might be wrong. This tells us something critical. The feeling of familiarity is not weak. It is authoritative. When the brain says something is known, consciousness usually accepts it without question. We do not verify familiarity. We trust it, which means that normal déjà vu may be the brain catching itself before belief sets in. A brief signal that is quickly overridden by higher reasoning. But in these pathological cases, the override never arrives. The result is a life lived in repetition, a world that feels like an endless rerun. For these patients, memory becomes unreliable, not because it is missing, but because everything feels remembered. This creates confusion, anxiety, and sometimes paranoia. Some patients withdraw. Others develop elaborate explanations to make sense of the feeling. This is where belief systems form. When the brain produces certainty without evidence, the mind fills in reasons. This mechanism helps explain why déjà vu is so easily absorbed into conspiracy theories. If a feeling arrives with confidence but no source, explanation follows emotion, not the other way around. Now consider a more subtle case. People with anxiety disorders often report increased déjà vu, especially during periods of stress. This suggests that emotional state influences prediction systems. When the brain is hypervigilant, it predicts more aggressively. It scans for patterns. It anticipates threats. In this heightened state, predictions may feel more vivid, more convincing, which increases the likelihood of confusion between prediction and memory. This supports the idea that déjà vu is not random. It emerges from specific conditions: fatigue, stress, novelty mixed with familiarity, cognitive overload. In other words, déjà vu occurs when the brain is working hard, not when it is failing. Which brings us to a surprising conclusion. Déjà vu may be a side effect of intelligence, of a brain that models the world deeply and rapidly. The better the brain is at prediction, the greater the risk of overlap. This explains why déjà vu is more common in younger people. Their brains are more plastic, more exploratory, more aggressive in pattern matching. As we age, predictions become more conservative. The world feels less surprising, and déjà vu fades. Now let's return to the feeling that déjà vu reveals something about time. Because even if neuroscience explains the mechanism, the subjective experience remains powerful. Why does it feel like the future is remembered? Because the brain lives slightly ahead of consciousness. Neural activity predicting the next moment occurs before awareness catches up. You are always experiencing the world a fraction of a second late. Normally, this delay is invisible. But when prediction becomes conscious, the illusion appears. The present feels anticipated, which feels like memory. This means déjà vu may be the brain briefly revealing its temporal architecture, showing that perception is not instantaneous. It is assembled, moment by moment, from predictions, corrections, and memory signals. This is unsettling because it undermines a comforting idea that we experience reality directly. We do not. We experience a reconstruction, a best guess, and it works so well that we rarely notice until déjà vu happens. Then the seams show. For a moment, reality feels staged, scripted, as if consciousness arrived late to its own experience. This is why simulation theories resonate. Not because they are true, but because they match the feeling. Déjà vu feels like stepping outside the script, like noticing the set instead of the story. But neuroscience suggests something quieter. There is no script, just prediction. And when prediction becomes visible, it feels uncanny. This leads to an important philosophical insight. Déjà vu does not mean reality is broken. It means perception is constructive. And construction always involves guesswork. When guesswork is exposed, the illusion of immediacy dissolves. But only briefly. The brain quickly restores coherence, because stability is more important than accuracy. Now let's consider a final, speculative idea. Some researchers propose that déjà vu may play a role in learning. When the brain detects a familiarity mismatch, it may flag the moment for deeper encoding. Pay attention. This feels important. Even if it isn't. This would explain why déjà vu moments feel vivid in memory. They are marked, highlighted. From this perspective, déjà vu is not a bug. It is a learning signal. A moment when the brain says, something about this pattern matters. Even if it can't explain why. This reframes déjà vu as adaptive, a tool for navigating a complex world, one that occasionally misfires, but mostly helps. So what is déjà vu in the end? It is not evidence of past lives, not proof of destiny, not a glitch in reality itself. It is a glimpse into how the brain manages time, memory, and expectation. A brief overlap between prediction and perception. A moment when the future feels remembered because it was anticipated. And because anticipation is the brain's default state. Déjà vu reminds us that consciousness is not passive. It is active, creative, predictive, and when it works too well, it reveals itself. Quietly, briefly, then disappears, leaving behind a strange certainty that for just a moment we saw how the mind builds reality, and how thin the line is between knowing, remembering, and believing. The connection between déjà vu and free will is subtle but profound, because the moment déjà vu occurs, a strange thought often follows. This has already happened. Then what happens next might already be decided. This is not a logical conclusion, but it is a natural one. Déjà vu creates the feeling that the present is being replayed, and replay implies a fixed sequence, a path already walked. Neuroscience approaches this carefully. The brain constantly simulates possible futures. Every action you might take branches into many predicted outcomes. Most of these simulations remain unconscious. They guide behavior quietly. But when one of these predictions becomes conscious, it can feel like destiny, like foresight, like inevitability. In reality, the brain is not seeing the future. It is rehearsing possibilities. When a rehearsal is mistaken for a memory, the illusion of predetermination emerges. This helps explain why during déjà vu, people often feel they know what will happen next, and yet they rarely do. The prediction collapses quickly, reality diverges, and the feeling fades. This tells us something important about free will. Our sense of choice exists alongside a powerful predictive engine. The brain prepares actions before we are aware of choosing them. Experiments have shown that neural signals indicating a decision appear milliseconds before conscious awareness. This does not mean free will is an illusion. It means choice is layered. Decisions emerge from processes that operate below awareness. Déjà vu may be one of the few moments when we glimpse that process, when the machinery hums loud enough to be noticed, and that can feel unsettling. Now consider how this relates to memory formation. Memory is not a recording. It is a reconstruction. Each time you remember something, you rebuild it. This rebuilding is influenced by emotion, context, and expectation. During déjà vu, the brain may partially activate memory networks without a source. This creates a sense of recollection without content, like opening a book and finding only the cover. The familiarity is there. The story is not. This empty familiarity is one of the most mysterious aspects of the experience. It suggests that memory and meaning are separable. You can feel that something is known without knowing what it is. This has implications beyond déjà vu. It speaks to how beliefs form, how intuitions arise, how certainty can exist without evidence. The brain evolved to act quickly. Sometimes feeling right matters more than being right. Déjà vu may be a byproduct of that priority. Now let's explore cultural interpretations. Across history, déjà vu has been framed in many ways. Ancient philosophers believed it was evidence of the soul remembering a previous existence. In some Eastern traditions, it was seen as a moment of alignment, a sign that one was on the correct path. In modern times, it has been absorbed into simulation narratives, glitches, resets, echoes. Each interpretation reflects the technology and philosophy of its era, but the feeling remains the same. Uncanny familiarity, detached certainty, a sense of repetition. This consistency suggests the experience is rooted in biology, but biology does not remove meaning. It reframes it. Déjà vu may not reveal hidden timelines, but it reveals something equally important, that the mind is not a window onto reality. It is an active participant. It predicts, It fills gaps. It creates coherence. And sometimes, it notices itself doing so. Those moments feel strange because they break immersion, like noticing the edge of the screen. Now let's consider an even deeper idea. Some neuroscientists propose that consciousness itself is a form of controlled hallucination, a best-guess model constrained by sensory input. In this view, perception is not passive reception. It is active inference. Deja vu occurs when inference outruns input, when the model gets ahead of the data. This aligns with why deja vu often occurs in new environments that resemble familiar ones. The brain fills in details before confirming them. Usually this is efficient. Occasionally it overshoots, and the overshoot feels like memory. This theory also explains why deja vu is so brief. Once sensory data catches up, the mismatch resolves. The brain corrects itself. The illusion dissolves. What remains is the emotional residue. The feeling that something important almost happened, but didn't. Now consider dreams. Dreams are pure prediction. The brain simulates worlds without sensory input. Lucid dreams reveal that the mind can generate convincing realities internally. Deja vu may be a waking echo of this capacity, a moment when internal simulation bleeds into perception. Not enough to replace reality, just enough to blur it. This may explain why deja vu feels dreamlike, detached, soft, as if reality briefly lost sharpness. Finally, let's ask the most important question. Why does deja vu captivate us so deeply? Because it challenges a core assumption, that we are experiencing the present moment as it unfolds. Deja vu suggests we are always slightly late, always interpreting, always predicting, and that what we call now is a constructed experience. That realization can feel destabilizing or comforting, depending on perspective. It means the mind is powerful, creative, resilient. It means meaning is not found, it is made. Deja vu is not a message from another life, but it is a message from the mind, a quiet reminder that reality as we experience it is a collaboration between the world and the brain interpreting it. And every so often that collaboration becomes visible, just for a moment, then slips back into the background, where it continues silently, building the experience of being here. Now, there is an opposite experience to deja vu that receives far less attention. It is called jamais vu. Where deja vu is false familiarity, jamais vu is false unfamiliarity. It happens when something you know deeply suddenly feels foreign. A common example is repeating a word over and over until it loses meaning. The letters remain, the sound remains, but the sense of recognition vanishes. For a brief moment, the mind cannot connect perception to meaning. This tells us something crucial. Familiarity and recognition are not properties of objects. They are internal signals. The brain decides what feels known, and it can withdraw that decision instantly. Jamais vu reveals the fragility of meaning, that the world feels stable not because it is, but because the brain keeps it that way. Together, deja vu and jamais vu show two sides of the same mechanism. One adds familiarity where it doesn't belong. The other removes it where it should exist. Both are failures of coordination between perception and memory, and both are deeply unsettling. Now consider false memories. These are not lies. They are sincere recollections of events that never occurred. The brain is remarkably good at creating them. In experiments, people can be convinced they experienced entire childhood events that never happened. And once formed, these memories feel real, emotionally rich, detailed, confident. This reveals a disturbing truth. Confidence is not evidence. The brain can generate certainty without accuracy. Deja vu sits near this boundary. It is not a memory, but it feels like one. It borrows the emotional signature of memory without the content, which is why it is so persuasive. Now let's talk about the Mandela effect. Groups of people sharing the same false memory. Logos remembered incorrectly. Quotes that never existed. events that feel misremembered collectively. This phenomenon has been framed as evidence of parallel universes or timeline shifts. But neuroscience offers a simpler explanation. Human memory is social. We reconstruct memories together. Shared narratives reinforce errors. Once a version of a memory becomes popular, it overwrites individual recollection. The brain prioritizes coherence over correctness, especially when social belonging is involved. This does not make the experience trivial. It makes it human. Deja vu differs in an important way. It is solitary, private, ephemeral, but it may share the same root. The brain's drive to impose structure, to resolve uncertainty, to maintain continuity. Now let's look at why some moments trigger these effects more than others. Transitions, doorways, travel, fatigue, stress, novelty layered on familiarity. These conditions strain the brain's predictive systems. They increase cognitive load. When load is high, shortcuts are used. Prediction becomes more aggressive. Verification becomes weaker. This is when misfires happen. Deja vu thrives in these gaps. This also explains why long drives, airports, and unfamiliar buildings are common triggers. The brain is constantly updating spatial models. Any lag creates overlap. Overlap feels like repetition. Repetition feels like memory. Now consider the role of attention. Deja vu often occurs when attention is divided. When awareness is not fully anchored, the brain fills in the rest. This filling in is usually seamless. But when attention snaps back, the construction becomes noticeable, like catching yourself mid-thought. This suggests that consciousness is not continuous. It flickers. And deja vu may occur at the edges, between moments of full awareness. Now let's step into a deeper philosophical layer. If familiarity is a feeling generated by the brain, then the past itself is not directly accessible. We never experience the past, only reconstructions. Every memory is a present event. This means deja vu is not a confusion of past and present. It is a confusion of signals in the present. The brain mislabels a feeling, and consciousness interprets it as time distortion. This is why deja vu feels timeless, detached from chronology. It is not anchored to a specific memory, just a sensation, floating. Now consider identity. We think of ourselves as continuous beings, the same person from moment to moment. Memory supports this illusion. But if memory is reconstructive, identity is too. Deja vu briefly disrupts this continuity. It introduces doubt. Have I been here before? Have I lived this already? This doubt can feel existential, but it also reveals something reassuring. Identity is flexible, resilient, maintained through ongoing reconstruction, not fixed. Now let's address one final conspiracy-level idea. Some suggest deja vu is evidence of memory carried across timelines, or information leaking backward in time. There is no scientific evidence for this, but the feeling persists because it matches the experience. Deja vu feels like information without origin, which is unsettling. Humans prefer stories to uncertainty, so we invent explanations. But neuroscience suggests something simpler and more profound. The brain is a prediction engine. Sometimes it predicts too well. Sometimes it reveals its own process. And when it does, the experience feels mystical, because we are not used to seeing the machinery. In the end, deja vu is not a crack in reality. It is a glimpse behind perception. A moment when the mind notices itself constructing the world, and then almost immediately forgets, so that life can continue smoothly, uninterrupted, predictable, real. Artists, writers, scientists, and highly imaginative thinkers report deja vu more often than the general population. This is not a coincidence. Creativity depends on the ability to see patterns where others do not, to connect distant ideas, to anticipate relationships before they are obvious. The same neural flexibility that allows creative insight also increases the likelihood of predictive overlap. In creative minds, the brain explores more possibilities. It runs more simulations. It fills in more gaps. And occasionally, those simulations surface as familiarity. This suggests déjà vu may be a side effect of mental richness, not confusion. Now consider intuition. Intuition is often described as knowing without knowing how. A gut feeling. A sudden sense of correctness. Neuroscience views intuition as rapid, unconscious pattern recognition. The brain detects regularities too subtle for conscious reasoning. Déjà vu feels similar. A conclusion without a premise. But there is a key difference. Intuition usually guides action successfully. Déjà vu does not. It offers no useful information, only a feeling. This may be because déjà vu lacks grounding. It is prediction without context, which makes it powerful emotionally but empty practically. This distinction matters. It explains why déjà vu feels important but leads nowhere. It activates certainty without direction. Now let's explore why déjà vu often feels meaningful. Humans are meaning-making organisms. We assume that strong feelings point to significance. Evolution reinforced this. Emotion signals relevance. But not all emotional signals correspond to external truth. Some are internal alerts. Déjà vu may be one of these. A signal that the brain noticed something unusual in its own processing. But consciousness interprets it as external significance. This misattribution is natural. We are not trained to detect internal errors. Now consider time perception. The brain does not experience time evenly. Emotional states compress or expand it. Novelty slows time. Routine speeds it up. Déjà vu sits at an odd intersection. The moment feels both stretched and fleeting. This paradox suggests a temporary disruption in temporal integration. The brain momentarily fails to align prediction, perception, and memory. This misalignment is resolved quickly. But during it, time feels strange, almost paused. This may explain why people often remember exactly where they were during a strong déjà vu episode. The moment stands out, not because of content, but because of disruption. Now let's examine why déjà vu fades with age. Older adults report it less frequently. This is not because the brain deteriorates. It is because it becomes efficient. Predictive models become stable, less exploratory, less prone to overlap. This makes the world feel smoother, but also less surprising. Déjà vu thrives in novelty. Youth is full of it. Now consider technology. Modern life exposes us to patterns at unprecedented scale. Repetition, algorithms, familiar layouts, recurring narratives. This may increase low-level familiarity. Some researchers suggest this could influence déjà vu frequency. The brain sees echoes everywhere. It learns templates. And occasionally those templates trigger false familiarity. This does not mean déjà vu is increasing, but it may be changing, becoming subtler, more frequent but less intense. Now let's return to the central question. Is déjà vu a glitch or a feature? The answer may be both. It is a byproduct of a system designed to predict. Prediction is essential for survival. It allows anticipation, planning, speed. Déjà vu is a rare cost of that speed, a moment when the system reveals itself. But that revelation does not break anything. It resolves itself, which is why déjà vu is brief and harmless in most cases. Finally, let's consider what déjà vu teaches us. It teaches that reality is not passively received. It is actively constructed. It teaches that certainty is a feeling, not proof. It teaches that memory and perception are intertwined, and that the sense of time is fragile. Most importantly, it teaches humility. The mind feels transparent, but it is not. It operates through layers, signals, shortcuts, assumptions, and sometimes those assumptions surface. Déjà vu is one such surface. A quiet ripple, a reminder that the experience of being conscious is an ongoing negotiation between prediction and correction. between expectation and surprise, between the brain and the world. And most of the time, that negotiation remains invisible, which is why when it becomes visible, it feels extraordinary. In laboratory settings, studying déjà vu is difficult. The experience is brief, unpredictable, and deeply subjective. You cannot reliably ask someone to feel it on command. But researchers have found ways to approach it indirectly. They study the conditions that make it more likely, and they study the brain when familiarity and memory come apart. One common method uses virtual reality. Participants are guided through digital environments designed with overlapping layouts, different rooms, different textures, but the same spatial structure. The brain notices the similarity before conscious recognition, and many participants report strong déjà vu. This supports the idea that spatial prediction plays a key role. The hippocampus, which maps space and memory, becomes confused by repeating structures. It signals familiarity, but the conscious mind cannot locate a source. The result is déjà vu. Another method involves rapid visual presentation. Images are flashed briefly. Some are shown twice. Others are new but similar. When the timing is just right, people feel familiarity without recall. This reveals that memory signals can be activated independently of awareness. The brain can know something before the mind knows why. Neuroimaging during these tasks shows activity in the medial temporal lobe, especially the hippocampus and surrounding regions. These areas are responsible for comparing incoming information with stored patterns. When the match is partial, the familiarity signal fires. But when the match is incomplete, recall fails. Déjà vu emerges in this gap. This confirms a critical insight. Déjà vu is not about too much memory. It is about incomplete memory, a signal without a match. Now consider electrical stimulation studies. In rare clinical cases, patients undergoing brain surgery experience déjà vu when specific regions are stimulated, particularly the temporal lobe. These patients describe intense feelings of repetition, sometimes accompanied by false recollections. This shows that déjà vu can be artificially triggered. It is not mystical. It is neurological. But again, this does not strip it of meaning. It relocates meaning from the cosmos to the brain. Now let's consider what happens after déjà vu. The brain quickly suppresses the signal. Higher order reasoning overrides it. This prevents belief from forming. In healthy brains, déjà vu remains a feeling, not a conclusion. But when this suppression fails, problems arise. Persistent déjà vu can lead to delusions. Some individuals become convinced they are trapped in loops, or that reality is repeating. This is why déjà vu is studied in relation to psychosis. It shows how fragile the boundary is between sensation and belief. The brain must constantly evaluate its own signals. When evaluation breaks down, experience becomes unreliable. This highlights a crucial point. Reality as experienced depends not just on perception, but on metacognition, the ability to assess our own thoughts. Déjà vu is a safe glitch, a brief misfire that resolves. But it reveals what happens when that safety net fails. Now let's step back. What does all of this mean for how we understand the mind? It means that certainty is not binary. It is graded. The brain assigns confidence. Familiarity is one such confidence signal. When confidence appears without evidence, the mind feels unsettled. But it also becomes curious. This curiosity may be why déjà vu fascinates us. It hints that experience is layered, that beneath awareness, systems are running, predicting, comparing, evaluating, and sometimes those systems disagree. Déjà vu is disagreement made visible. Now consider the philosophical implication. If perception is prediction, then the present is never raw. It is filtered, interpreted. Déjà vu shows us a moment when the filter malfunctions slightly, but also reveals how much we rely on it. Without prediction, the world would be overwhelming. Every moment would feel new, chaotic, unmanageable. Déjà vu is the cost of order. A reminder that structure requires assumption, and assumptions can misfire. Now let's end with a quiet reflection. Deja vu is not a message from the past or future. It is a message from the present, a signal that the brain is working, comparing, predicting, learning, and correcting. It reminds us that experience is not a mirror, it is a model, and models are powerful, but imperfect. So the next time deja vu happens, when a moment feels strangely familiar, pause, not to search for hidden meaning, but to appreciate the complexity. The mind has briefly revealed itself, then returned to silence, continuing its work, moment by moment, building the feeling of reality. And so the feeling fades, the moment passes, the room returns to itself, the certainty loosens its grip, and the mind settles back into the quiet rhythm of the present. Deja vu leaves no evidence behind, no message to decode, no answer to uncover. Only a gentle reminder that the brain is always working just beneath awareness, predicting, correcting, and stitching each moment into something that feels continuous and real. Most of the time we never notice, and that is exactly how it is meant to be. The mind smooths over its own edges. It hides the machinery. It keeps the world stable enough for thought, memory, and meaning to unfold without interruption. Deja vu is simply a brief opening, a small ripple on the surface. Then the water grows still again. As this thought drifts away, there is nothing left to hold on to. No need to analyze, no need to follow it further. The mind can rest in the simple flow of moments arriving and passing, one after another, without effort.